So I want to start with you guys. This is a very important lecture about the issue of prayers. We're talking about. So what are we talking about? The issue of Minyan, praying with the Minyan. So we're commanded by the sages. The sages told us, right, that when we do our prayers, daily, Shabbat, holidays, we should try to do everything with a Minyan.
In a group.
Right. What is a Minyan? 10 people. That's what we're talking about, right? So this 10 people thing, this concept, what does it come from? So it starts from this, right? First of all, a person has to understand one thing, which is a major concept in Torah. That after the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, right, the Talmud says, there's a wall of iron between us and God. Iron wall separates between us. Can you imagine such a thing like this? Iron wall, right?
Firmament.
There we can say solid steel, right? Whatever, even better, right? But over there it says iron. Okay, whatever. Because in those days there was no steel. Okay, so anyway, the point is, right? What's this iron business? So the answer is like this, right? That a person who prays after the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, his prayer is very hard to get answered. It's like, there's an iron wall, partition there. You have to use very, very great powers in order to break through that wall, penetrate, which is an amazing thing, So a person, in order to penetrate through all this, has to use very strong formula of prayer, a strong form of prayer. So as we said, right, what does that mean? One of them is that a person has to pray with a minyan. So the power of praying with a minyan is able to overcome somewhat this, handicap that we have for our prayers since the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed. In those days, by the way, before the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, the Beit HaMikdash was a place of prayer, primarily. So what does that mean? A person used to go there, and he would get answered right away in general. He would just start to talk. As soon as he starts to talk, already he feels some answer, he sees something, there was very instant kind of gratification there. That's what it was. Unbelievable, right? That's the way it was in the time of Beit HaMikdash. So what does that mean? The Beit HaMikdash, when it was destroyed, the whole world, shifted and altered. It became dark. A darkness came upon the world. That's what happened. You understand? The Beit HaMikdash was a vehicle to have our prayers answered. That's what it was. What does it say, by the way, that Shlomo HaMelech, when he prayed, when he built the first Beit HaMikdash? Who built the first Beit HaMikdash? Shlomo HaMelech built the first one. When he built the first one, he made a big prayer, as it says right in the book of Kings over there, right? The whole one chapter is dedicated to that prayer. So he prayed a lot of things over there. That Kadosh Baruch Hu should hear the prayers that are said in the Beit HaMikdash. But also another thing which he said, which was a very important element, was that that even a goy who comes, to pray in the Beit HaMikdash, because in those days the Beit HaMikdash was famous, everybody knew about it. So the goyim also used to come there, to pray. If they had some kind of problems, they used to come there as well. By the way, if you go to the Kotel, today, also a lot of goyim come over there as well. You see over there Japanese and Chinese, and the Russians and all kinds of goyim that are coming there. Israel is a big tourist attraction, so they come there. This place is famous, for prayers. So they come there. They wanna feel that magic, prayer thing there. So therefore they come there. All the more so they were coming to Beit HaMikdash, right, which was 100 times stronger than what it is over there. You can't compare one to the other, right? This is just a remnant of what it was before. So they come, they pray, and so Shlomo HaMelech said like this, right? When a goy comes to pray in this house, you should answer what he prays to you. He tells Hashem, answer his prayers. Don't leave him empty-handed. What does that mean? The Chazal, right, note that there's a difference between what he prayed for the Jews and what he prayed for the goyim. For the Jews, he prayed that if they do tshuva, if they go in the right way, so answer their prayers.
And the goys?
But the goy, regardless of tshuva, answer them. There was no conditions made. Can you imagine? So in that sense, the goy has a better condition over there, has a better status than we do in the Beit HaMikdash. That's the way it was. Can you imagine such a thing like that? So the question is, why? Why does the goy have a better status than we? What, there's discrimination? What's going on, right? The goy gets answered whether he does tshuva or not, and we only get answered if we do tshuva. So you know what the answer is? The Chazal say that the goy, right, when he comes there, it's a different attitude. He's coming there with hostility in his heart. You understand? In other words, he's coming and saying, you know what? Let me test this thing. If it really works. Very skeptical. Kind of attitude. What are these Jews? What? Let me see if it's real. Something is going on over here. This is just a fake, another fake religion, another Hare Krishna. One of these things. You know what I'm saying? One of these fake things. So they're coming there with a hostile and skeptical mood, attitude. So Shlomo Melech tells HaKadosh Baruch Hu, therefore, you should answer them. Why? So they should know that it's real, right? In other words, don't leave a place for them to have any doubts about the power of the Bet HaMikdash.
Prove yourself.
Can you imagine such a thing?
Trump went there. You think that's
right? He
went
to the Kotel. He's doing pretty good. Can't complain. He went to the wall. He was the first president that went to the wall.
Yeah, put a note inside.
He's a good man. God bless him.
Next to mine.
Probably one of the best presidents we ever had in this country, right?
I was in the same spot.
Yeah. I used to think, maybe Reagan, maybe Trump, but now I see, right? I think he's even past Reagan.
Well, Trump has Jews in his family.
Whatever. So anyway, the point is, right, that but he needs also our prayers as well. That should continue with a good way, because sometimes what happens is that presidents, they start out good, but then they kind of get mixed up with all kinds of all kinds of things, pressure. There's bad advisors, all kinds of things. Pressures from here, pressures from there, threats, this and that, and all of a sudden they start to sing a different tune. You understand? That's the way it is sometimes. So you can't rely on anybody, right? You should know, right? All flesh and blood, you cannot rely. You can only rely on Hashem. But so far, so good. So far he's doing a pretty good job. God bless him. Whatever. But anyway, I'm not here to talk about that. But
we pray for him he doesn't get killed.
Yes, we're praying for him. Yes. He's a good man. God bless him. So what I tell you is like this: the prayers. Now the Bet HaMikdash was destroyed. So that preferential treatment that we had one time, that's already history until the Bet HaMikdash is rebuilt. You understand? So therefore, we need to have some kind of catalyzers, to effectuate the prayers. So one of them, as we said, right, the Minyan. This is why we need a Minyan, because a Minyan, they say the Chazal something amazing, right? That if you pray nowadays, we're talking about, right? Nowadays, if you pray without a Minyan, so you have to pray with full concentration. Your heart has to be in the right place. Your heart, your mind. You shouldn't be thinking about other things. All kinds of alternative, thoughts in your head going through. Like thinking about the Wall Street and this and stocks and hedge funds and all kinds. Right? Who's suing me? Which debtor is coming after me? Credit card problems. Okay, don't think about these things when you're praying. If a person really prays with a full heart and full concentration, so he gets answered, even though he's not praying with a Minyan. But as we said, right, there's still that handicap that there's an iron wall there separating. What does that mean? That you may get answered, but it's not going to be, may not be 100% what you wanted. You know what I mean? Something will come out of it.
Better in numbers.
Right. Something will come out of it, but it's not going to be 100% maybe. You never know, right? I want to tell you something a little bit deep, by the way, about this. A little deep. Why is it, that during the destruction of Bet HaMikdash, during the Galut, during the exile that we're in now, right? Why is it that Hashem doesn't want to hear our prayers so much? That we have to work so hard. We have an iron wall between us, I mean, you know what happened, right? In those days, the Berlin Wall was knocked down. Reagan said, to Gorbachev, knock it down. So why we can't tell House Hashem, knock it down. If they knock down the Berlin Wall, why not to knock down also this wall that we have between us and Hashem?
Because then there'll be water coming.
What do you say? What do you say about that?
There'll be water coming down.
So you know what it is? The answer is quite deep. What does that mean? What's the depth of the answer?
He knows that.
The answer is like this, right? The HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when we're in exile, He's doing a different kind of a tikkun, different kind of rectification for us, for the world. This rectification requires minimal intervention of God. Like on a low flame. God doesn't intervene so much on a daily basis. You know what I mean? Everything is hidden, right? We call that hester panim. You know what that means? We call that in Hebrew hester panim. God is hiding His face from us. We don't readily feel His presence. We don't readily see His hand everywhere. You know what I mean? It's hard to find it. You have to look for it, with a needle in a haystack. You have to look, go in there, look around. Oh yeah, I found something there. A little bit something. Oh yeah, God must have done that. But if you're not really looking so carefully, you're not even going to find it. You're going to think everything is working on nature. Laws of nature. And it's true, by the way. There is laws of nature. There are laws of nature. Hashem made laws of nature, and in general, He doesn't want to break those laws unless you need a miracle, which is very rare. But what happens is like this, right? That now we need that there should be minimal intervention from God. Why is that? Right? Like it says in the Sefer Dvarim, in the Deuteronomy, it says, I will hide my face from them on that day. Right? Some say, by the way, that's talking about the Holocaust. Hashem hid His face, like He wasn't there, He like ignored us over there. Like nobody's coming to save you, nobody cares about you, no answer. Too bad.
It's hard to believe that God would let that happen.
Yeah. So it says, I will hide my face on that day. That's what it says, right? Hashem is hiding His face from us, right? Especially during the Holocaust, during World War II, right? Which was so what kind of God is that? What does He need this for, to hide His face like this from us? So you know what the answer is? The answer is, it's really connected to what we talked about on Tuesday. We talked about 10 Commandments, right? So what happened? After the 10 Commandments were given, everything was peachy and rosy, and then all of a sudden the Jews worshipped the idol, right? The calf, the golden calf they made. So what happened was that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right, He saw that, these Jews, the problem with them is like this, right? When you treat them too good, when you're too kind to them, you're too nice to them, they give you that finger. You know which finger I'm talking about.
Take advantage.
Right, exactly. So you don't want to get, this is what happens. HaKadosh Baruch Hu already realized that being good to us didn't yield the desired results. That we should have God always in our presence, in our midst, always, day and night. Whenever you call Him, He answers you. Even before you finish your prayer, you're already answered. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't want to do it this way now. He said, I already gave you that chance. What does that mean? I gave you the chance during the 10 Commandments. The Torah was received. That was one chance. I gave you also another chance, right? During the first temple. Everything was peachy and rosy. We had kings. We had domination. We dominated the whole world at that time. The Jews were very powerful. Superpower, And so what came out of it, The Jews were serving idols, murdering, right? And committing adultery. This is what happened. This is what came out.
How long did they serve
This was going on during the whole time of the first temple, which is, we're talking about 800 years. Why? Because the temple was standing for 410 years.
Wow.
You understand? And before that, there was another 400 years before that. So we're talking about 800 years altogether, at least, right? If not more. All that time, the Jews were serving idols.
Wow.
Not all of them, but a good number.
In the movie, Charlton Heston puts an end to it in 5 minutes. You remember?
Canaan.
You understand? So what happened was that they were serving idols, and Kadosh Baruch Hu said, "You know what? This is not the way to do it. It seems, because I'm giving you guys, too much of a nice treatment, preferential treatment. You understand? That's too much. That's too nice for you. So, what's the way to solve the problem?
More prayer.
I'm going to hide my face from you, and let's see what happens to you then. Right? What does that mean?
I cut you off.
I'm going to see, I'm going to leave you alone for a while, let you be to yourself without having my intervention, and let's see how you make it then, how you get along.
Where your will is.
Right. And then, what happens to you is like this, right? That once you realize that God is lacking in your life, you're not getting the intervention that you need, you're not getting this right, then you come to Him, you turn to Him because you have no choice anymore. You understand? So that's the whole idea, you understand? The whole idea is that during the Galut, during the exile, we have a chance to come to Hashem from a lack of His presence, which is something very, very, just to understand intellectually His greatness, His Torah, the depths of the Torah, without having any open miracles or without having any open intervention on a regular basis. So Kadosh Baruch Hu wanted this, you understand? He wanted us to come to do tshuva through the absence of God. Meaning what? That we realize now that we made a big mistake. His absence has caused us so much, right? So much suffering in our lives. So much woes. So now He's telling us, you want me? Okay, so then you're going to have to take me back. What does that mean? Actively, get me to come back because you're going to be wanting to get close to me. So this is the reason why we need a minyan. You understand? Because when you have a minyan, what happens is that even if a person is not, the Chazal tells something basic by the minyan, that even if a person is not concentrating so well on his prayers, he's thinking about, he right, as my rabbi used to say, one of my rabbis used to say, when we start praying, right, we start out in New York City, and we finish in Tel Aviv, you know? In other words, we're like flying around all over the place. We don't know where we're going, right? That's the idea. So a person, we don't have concentration so much in prayers today. We lose our concentration, you know? We can't even concentrate for
When
2
you go-
minutes
when you go
without diverting our mind to some silly thing, you know, some silly...
When you go to the grave, you have to have a minyan, right?
Right. That's also true. That's a little bit different because we're saying Kaddish over there, right?
Well, they ask you
Yeah,
for a minyan.
we're saying because we need
Are there-
Kaddish.
Are there 10 men here?
Right. So now the idea is like this, right? That minyan, we see how important it is because this causes us to our prayers to be accepted more. Also, there's another thing, by the way, another reason why minyan is a good vehicle, is a good ceremony. You know why? Because this causes the Jewish people to come together in groups, and not to each one to be separate. You know, this one is this building 6335, 9844, right? All these buildings, right? Everybody's got his own place. No interaction between the Jews. Hashem doesn't want that. He wants the Jews to have interaction in the galut, especially in the exile, right? Where they're surrounded with their enemies, you know, all kinds of strange people, you know, idol worshippers, all kinds of sinners, all kinds of enemies of the Jews. So when we're surrounded by enemies, we need to gather together because this is what causes the divine presence to dwell upon us. Because when we're separate, right, that makes a weakness for the Jewish people. It's a sign of weakness. Because that means you can go to each one and attack him without anybody to defend him. There's no group, there's no friendship, there's no camaraderie, right? Nothing like that. So Kadosh Baruch Hu wanted in the galut, which is a very dark time in the exile. It's a very dark time. He wanted us that we should be together and bring His presence together to the minyan. That's the idea. You understand? Okay, so now we got into a little bit of the philosophy of minyan, but now get to more the practical issues, right? Even though, by the way, it's a mitzvah to go to a minyan for our prayers, but there is a minyan, there's a minyan. What does that mean? The Chazal tell us, "Berov am hadrat hamelech." Where does it say that? Shlomo Melech, right? It says King Solomon. What does that mean? That the honor of the king, what does that mean? Hashem is with the multitudes of people. What does that mean? The more people you have, the more honor of God there is there, more Shekhinah, more divine presence is there. You know? So therefore the Chazal say, even though you have like several shuls, you know, you have the Georgian shul, you have the Bukharian shul, you have this shul, you have, 99th Street, 108th Street, you know, Continental, this, blah, blah, blah. So which one should you go to? Maybe you should go to the closest one by you, you know? Maybe you have one like around the block, so just go there. Why waste your time going to a shul which is further away?
Right.
What's the point of it, right? So Chazal tell us it's still good to go to something maybe a little bit further. You know why? Because if there's more people there, it's a bigger community. So there's more divine presence there, more Shekhinah. So therefore, it's a mitzvah to go to a place where there's more Jews there. You know, as a general rule, that's the idea, right? As opposed to 10 people, 12 people, which is okay, it's a minyan, but doesn't have the same power as 100 or 500 or 1,000. You know, it's not the same thing. Everyone has its own merit, its own level of Shekhinah, divine presence. So therefore, it's a mitzvah to go to a bigger minyan, if it's possible. You know, even though he has to walk a little bit more. Let's also explain something very important, right? We learn in the Shulchan Aruch, right, that a person. What's the question is like this, right? Are you really required to go to minyan? Is it like a requirement? Is it an obligation, or is it just something which is just recommended, or what's the status of that?
It's something that God
understand?
wants to see, but you don't have to do it because you said you could do it individually.
Yeah,
But you have to concentrate.
that's also true. Yeah, what you're saying, that's true. So the question is it a real obligation or not? That's the question, right? So the answer is like this, right? That a person has to try. What does that mean? If you have now free time, you're not going anywhere, there's nothing which is holding you down somewhere or whatever, so a person should go, if that's the case, right? How far does he have to go? Right? In other words, let's say the shul is 5 blocks from his house, 10 blocks, 15 blocks, whatever. There are people who don't have a shul for miles within their vicinity, right? Or 10 miles, 20 miles. You still have to go if it's that far away. Yeah. So the answer is, right, that if it's more than 18 minutes away, you don't have to go.
18 minutes.
Right. What does that mean? 18 minutes of walking.
Number. Right? 18.
Chai. So if it's more than 18, you don't have to go. What does that mean? The time that it takes to walk 18 minutes, the distance, right, that it takes to walk that time. How much can you walk in 18 minutes? It's about half a mile. right? About a half a mile.
Yeah, if you're good, if you're
Yeah.
normal.
About a kilometer, right? About a kilometer.
If you're normal.
Fast pace, I usually do a mile.
Yeah, if you go fast. Yeah, we're talking about the average, like average, average Joe.
About a-
Average Joe, right? Not Speedy David, right? Speedy Gonzalez, right? Not like people like that.
Turtle.
So, right. So, if it's more than 18 minutes, you don't have to go. Not required to go.
If it's cumbersome to you.
That includes, by the way, whether it's Shabbat or weekdays or whatever. So, therefore, if a person has a situation like that where the shul is very far,
Go closer.
so what should he do? Try to live closer to a shul, right? To move to a place where it's closer, because if it's too far away, you'll never go.
But that's why you move to a community.
Right, that's the whole idea. So, a person has to know one thing, right? Also, regarding this, what we just said. The question is like this, right? What about if I have a car?
Right.
If I have a car, do I measure the time that it takes to walk there or to drive there? No, because it's totally different.
Walk.
Smart guy, right? So the answer is, right, really, the truth is that if you can drive there and it's going to take you less than 18 minutes, you should still go. You know what I mean? Because for you, that's the pace that you go at
But you have to avoid
with a car. No, we're not talking about Shabbat. We're talking about Sunday, Monday, whatever, Tuesday, whatever it is, right?
Monday prayer.
Right, you're right. Weekdays, right? So a person has to go, even if he's driving, if it's going to take less than 18 minutes, he should go. That's the halakha. Same thing applies, by the way, whatever vehicle you may be taking, right? Whatever he's taking, or taking a train, taking a bus, whatever it is, right? 18 minute is the rule for every kind of, going, whatever it is, right? However you go, even if it's a flight, it could be the same thing. Doesn't make any difference, right? Whatever, Now they have, cars that fly, right, Mark? They have those, no? But these are not aliens. These are regular cars. Okay. If you see them flying, don't think that it's an alien. It's not. It's a real car.
I think that instead of
Yeah.
investing money into this, not them as driving, cars that.
Right.
They should already be doing that,
Yeah,
because there's
It's
no rule.
it's already made.
The Jetsons.
They have it already.
The Jetsons.
Yeah, there's a few companies already that produced it. Look in the. You'll see. Okay, so Google it, right? Whatever. Yeah. Okay. So
No,
anyway,
I'm sure that they have.
they have it.
a vehicle
It's already
that-
produced.
Yeah,
It's already produced. Yeah.
but,
Ready to be sold.
They have a car that turns into a plane.
Right. Right. Exactly. It turns into a plane or a helicopter. They also have a car that turns into a boat. They have that too.
They're real
It's
ships.
already so you can buy that.
The real stuff.
You drive like right into the beach and you just go, just right.
yeah, but these things, until they get mass produced, and you.
Right. But they're already like being sold. They're sold.
You can go to Schlemenhammer. They have these things.
Anyway, right. So whichever way you go, it doesn't make any difference. 10 minutes is the rule. Right. 10-minute rule. That's the idea. Right. That's number one. Right. Number two also. Right. Who's obligated to go to a minyan? Are women obligated to go to a minyan? Right. So the answer is no. Right? Only men are. Yeah. So what does that mean?
No.
What's the reason, by the way, why the sages did not obligate women to go to the minyan? Why? Because they're too busy taking care of the household, the children, this cooking, this and that. When you come home, right, you want to have dinner on the table, right? You want to have, you want to have your food, you want to have your laundry done, you want to have all these things. How are they going to do that and also go to minyan, right? You can't live in both worlds,
Nowadays they don't.
doesn't work like that, right? You know what it is, right?
Nowadays they don't.
So women were exempted from going to minyan and also many other mitzvot as well, right? From putting on tefillin, right? From putting tzitzit, all kinds of things. They're not required to do these things. What's the reason why? Because they're too busy with taking care of the home. You can't give them both jobs. One here, one there, everything together. It's too much already. Yeah? This is not a superwoman. We're talking about a regular woman, flesh and blood, like everybody else. You know what I mean? So that's the reason why women are not obligated. The sages don't obligate them because they know, right, that they have other things to do. Yeah, that's the way it is. So regarding that, by the way, there are also exceptions regarding that. What does that mean? That if let's say regarding certain mitzvot, like hearing Parshat Zachor, which we're going to be doing right before Purim, right, or coming to read the Megillah. So there are certain cases where we tell the woman to come too. They're also obligated. There's also several opinions about that. But when it comes to daily prayers, Shabbat, Yom Tov, every day, weekday, they're not obligated to come to minyan. They don't have to hear the Torah. They don't have to do any of these things. So on the one hand, they're not obligated to come to minyan. But on the other hand, they're obligated to pray though. But not like men. What does that mean? A man has to pray 3 times a day, according to Chazal, right? Shachrit, Mincha, and Arvit, 3 times a day. How many times a day does a woman have to pray? The truth is, right, that in the Mishnah, it says women are obligated to pray. It doesn't say how many times. But regarding the poskim, the Rambam says 1 time a day they have to pray, right? According to Tosfot, it's 3 times a day. Several opinions about that. Some say also 2, by the way, like it's brought down in the Mishnah Berurah. But nevertheless, whatever it is, right, there are some women who pray once a day. There are some women who pray twice a day. There are some women who pray 3 times a day. There are some women who don't pray at all because they don't have time. That's also true. Even though it's not really good to do that, but sometimes there's no choice. So whichever way it is, right, the prayer of the woman, by the way, doesn't take as much as a man. When a man comes to Minyan in the morning, how long does it take to pray? An hour. You know what I mean? A woman can knock off the morning prayer in 15 minutes, the whole thing. They're not obligated to do all those things that we're obligated to do. So it's not the same thing for them. You understand? So even though we're obligated to go to Minyan, women are not obligated to go to Minyan in general, right? They stay home. They can pray at home. They can pray, right? And you know how it is, right? The women are one hand they're holding the siddur, one hand rocking the baby, like this, so you shouldn't cry. One of these things, what I'm saying? That's the way it is, right? The women are they're very busy, so they have all kinds of things to do. So they get it through, they get it done somehow, here in between tasks. They find like a few minutes for a prayer or something, some tehillim, whatever, but they don't have to come to the shul either, by the way. You should know also, by the way, a lot of people, there was one lady who came here, who was a member of the community, and she always likes to complain about things, whatever. She's one of these, she has gripes, kvetch, she likes to kvetch. Right, it's kvetch, right? So she likes to come. So one of the things that she complained about, she called up the gabaim over here, right? The president's men, right over here, right? These guys, whatever. So he called them up and she says, why doesn't the rabbi's wife come to the shul? Like it's not nice that even the rabbi's wife doesn't come. You know what I mean? So the truth is, right, once I heard this, I answered, the gabai, Shalom, our friend Shalom. I told him, I said, women are obligated. I'm not obligated to come to shul. Give me a break. What is this lady talking about? Mm-hmm. It's better that, by the way, according to the Gaon Levina, it's better that the women shouldn't come to shul at all. You know why? Because they don't use that opportunity for the right purposes, right? They talk, things which are like more mundane, things. Yes. Instead of they're praying. Instead of praying, they can also talk some other things as well. So therefore, the Gaon Levina says, right, better that they shouldn't come at all.
Mm-hmm. Your own section.
But nevertheless, right? Right? Even if they do come, they're allowed to come if they want. No problem with that. But even if they do come, they're not obligated. They're doing like something which is optional for them. That's the idea. You know what I mean? So a person has to know that this is the status of the woman. Man is separate, woman is separate, 2 different things. It has nothing to do one with the other, right? Everybody has their own role in Judaism. That's the way it is, right? We're not now bringing, right, men to do the role of women and the women to do the role of men, right? Role. What is that called? Right? Role reversal, right? Reversing roles. We don't need these kind of things, right? We have enough roles as it is, right? We have sweet roles. We have this, right? So now to reverse roles also we don't need.
Take care of the house. I take care of the building.
That's it. That's the way it is, right? Whatever. I mean, there's all kinds of roles. But anyway, getting back to what we said, right? So regarding the minyan, we said, right, who's obligated, who's not obligated. There's also, by the way, another thing, which is that if a person has some kind of a business transaction that he has to do, he has some kind of job that he's doing, they can't get out. So he's exempt from coming to minyan because of that. He can't come at that hour, for some reason. Somebody's holding him up. He's got a meeting. He's got, this. He's got, he's got to do something, or he's doing a mitzvah also, by the way, right? A person who's doing a mitzvah, he's exempt from minyan altogether until he finishes that mitzvah, right? Some people, by the way, what they do is they break it up, they say, what, I'll stop, I'll pray the minyan, and then I'll finish the mitzvah later. But the truth is, according to halakha, a person doesn't have to do that. When he's doing a mitzvah, right, he's exempt from minyan, so he doesn't have to go at all until he finishes that mitzvah. Once you finish, it's a different story. But if you're still praying, right, no reason to break up now. If you're still doing the mitzvah, there's no reason now, right, to break up the mitzvah and do something else, going to minyan, right? By the way, even from prayers, the person is exempt. If the person is really doing a mitzvah, which is like a time-bound kind of thing, right, something which is bound by time, that he has to finish at a certain time, there's a time limit there. So in a case like that, if a person is doing a mitzvah, he's altogether, right, exempt from prayers altogether. He doesn't have to pray at all until he finishes the mitzvah. This is the way it is, right? So these things are very important to know, because even though, right, going to a minyan is a very important thing, but there's also things which exempt you from that as well. Also, another thing, right? A person has to know. By the way, this is one of the most tricky elements of going to a minyan, which is what? When are you considered to be with a minyan? In other words, you know how it is, right? That we have the famous, right? David. We also talk about this. David and me. We always talk about this, right? Which is what? That they come to the shul Yom Kippur, and half of them are standing outside, and like they think they came to shul, but they're really standing outside in the street. You know what I mean? I don't know exactly what that means.
Not praying.
What kind of shul that is, but whatever. But the point is like this, right? That seriously speaking, if a person comes to shul and he doesn't come inside to the sanctuary, is he considered to be with the minyan? Let's say he's praying outside. They're praying inside. He's praying outside.
He is.
Right? So what is the status of that?
If you're praying,
is that a minyan or not?
You're praying.
You know what I mean? Yeah, you're praying, sure, but are you with the minyan? That's the question, right?
You might have your own minyan outside.
That's a different story, right? Let's say you don't have a minyan outside.
Well,
then what? Are you with the minyan or not, right? So the answer is, right, that the person has to know. There's very specific rules about this. What does that mean? If the minyan is praying inside, right, in the sanctuary, in the main hall, and you're outside, let's say in this room, or outside, on the street, whatever. So if you don't see them and they don't see you, you're not with the minyan. You're like praying, it's like praying at home.
That's wrong.
You know what I mean? You're not with the minyan. You have to be, right, either or, right? You have to be in the same room with them, same hall, whatever. That's one idea. But if not, at least there should be a line of vision between you and the minyan. What does that mean? They can see you, and you can see them. Not all of them, but some of them, at least. You understand? If you can see some of them, it's also good. 1, 2 guys you see, right? Some guys with beards, over there. You see them? Oh, okay, they see me where I can see. But it doesn't necessarily mean you have to see them, to watch them. It has to be possible to see them. That's the idea. You understand? If it's possible to see them, even though you're not watching each other all the time. Who needs to watch each other? There's no reason for that, right? So then, according to the Redvaz, and also many other poskim as well, right? Brought down the Mishnah Berurah as well. This Redvaz. According to them, you do combine with the minyan, right? Even though you're not in the room, because you have a line of vision with them. Where do we learn this, by the way? That if you have a line of vision with the minyan, you combine with them even though you're not in the room. We learn this from the laws of zimun. You know what that means, zimun? Right? This is a prayer that we say after the meals. Right? Before we do Birkat HaMazon, grace after meals, right? We also do a zimun, which is like blessing God. So that zimun is done minimum with 3 people, right? And there's also 10 people. It's even better, right? So what we're saying is like this, right? That teaches us the Mishnah, Masechet Brachot, that if the 2 groups are eating in 2 different rooms, 2 different domains, right? Let's say we're eating here and they're eating inside. So the question is, do we combine for zimun or not? So it says the Mishnah over there that if you have a line of vision with them, a part of us and part of them, there's a line of vision, it does combine. So a line of vision combines you, even though you're not in the same room. But the problem is like this, right? So some say that the same applies to playing with the minyan as well, prayers that we do in the shul. Some say that only applies to the zimun that we do for great grace after meals. So, but the halacha is, right, after the investigation, we did an investigation on this, that if there's a line of vision between you and the minyan, you do combine with them. You can be a part of the minyan. That also applies, by the way, in a different way. I'll give you a more like exotic way of looking at this, right? Let's say you're outside the building altogether, right? But there's a window that you can see through. So you can see them and they can see you through the window. You're also part of the minyan. Because there's a field of vision there. Right? Even though the window is closed, but it's clear, right? You can see through that. So since the window is open, not open, but it's closed, but you can see it's clear. So therefore, if there's a line of vision between you and them, you're considered to be a part of the minyan. Right? But the problem is like this, right? That if there's no line of vision, what does that mean? The door, they closed it, right? There's no window, like you're standing over here, you're praying. They're praying inside. You're not a part of the minyan. So you may think you came to the shul, but you really didn't. You're just praying like in the hallway. They're very nice. So this is the idea. Understand? So a person has to know there's also another option, another variation, which is a person goes up to Ezrat Nashim, right, to the women's section. Let's say there's no ladies there, right? He's not looking. He's not going there to check out the ladies because it's a no-no, right? It's a no-no. But if he's going up there because let's say he just wants like some privacy, he doesn't want to be looked at by people. It bothers him that they chat with him, all kinds of stuff. They talk nonsense, whatever. He wants to go up there and pray up there in the women's section. No ladies over there. Just have some peace of mind, whatever. So the question is, if he goes to the ladies section upstairs, is he part of the minyan or not, right? So the truth is, right, that the ladies section is a separate domain. You know why? Because there's a fence over there, partition, and it's a different level also, So it's not the same domain. But nevertheless, right, according to what we just said now, if there's a field of vision between the two parties, right, what does that mean? They can see you, some of them, not all of them. And also you see also some of them. Field of vision there. Right? So that combines you to the minyan. Understand? This is it's a very important thing to know this concept. So a person has solutions, if he can't for some reason go into the main sanctuary. Let's say he doesn't want to, or whatever, so they bother him over there, there's too much noise, whatever, So as long as there's a field of vision between them, he's with them. So therefore he can pray with them, everything, and they count it to him as he's praying with a minyan. Even though there are some who say, by the way, that it doesn't work like that, but the halakha is that it does work. That's the bottom line. So that's the idea of combining with a minyan, right? But what are we talking about? When we talk about this, we're talking about when you're doing the Amidah, where you're doing the silent prayer, right, of the 19 prayers, right, the blessings that we do, right? The main prayer that we do when we stand. So that standing prayer needs to have a minyan. You need to pray with a minyan. That's how it's accepted much more readily, right? So when it comes to that prayer, you have to be with the minyan. That's the main element of the prayer. But let's say you prayed some other elements, some other parts of the prayer that were not with the minyan. That's okay, because not every part of the prayer needs a minyan. I'll tell you a funny story, by the way, and you understand, right? So stories like this, right? That since I've been here for the last 2 years, praying in the shul, right? So people are looking at me very strange, So I'll explain to you why. I guess there's several reasons for that, but I'll tell you one of the reasons. Okay, maybe they think I'm a UFO. I don't know exactly what it is, right? Okay, so anyway, right? I am a UFO. I came from Israel, whatever. So anyway, right? That's a UFO. Where it comes from Israel. So comes now, right? They come and look at me, and they went to the rabbi actually, here, and they asked the rabbi. They said, this guy, what's with him? Like he doesn't pray like everybody else.
These were probably the people that didn't know you.
Some of them knew me, some of them didn't know me, but they have a question, So
You don't pray any different now than you did when you left the States.
right, but that was a long time ago, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about 20 years ago, right?
Yeah.
That's already history, whatever, right? So they came to the rabbi and they asked him. They said, "Why is it, right?" They had particularly one main question, which was, right, that we do over here. We come on Erev Shabbat, right, Friday evening. We do Kabbalat Shabbat. That's what we're taking in Shabbat, and everybody sings it together, whatever. So what they were wondering is like this, right? That when they're singing together Kabbalat Shabbat, sometimes I just sit there and I study, Torah, I don't sing with them together. So that bothered them, It's bothered them. So they went to the rabbi, right? And they asked the rabbi. They said, "Why is he doing this?" So the rabbi didn't know what to answer. He didn't know what the answer was. So, I'll make you laugh, right? So the rabbi comes to me a few days later. This is like 2 years ago. He comes to me and says, he says, I know, they came and asked me this question. They said about you, He says, I know you probably have a good reason why you do it, but it says, you should know. He says, I couldn't answer them. He says, I wasn't able to answer them. He says, I don't know why you do that. He said, whatever. So he said, you're like, it looks, he told me, like, it looks strange what you're doing. Yeah, looks strange. So whatever. Okay, so I'll tell you. Okay, that episode was over. So then, actually, like 2 years after that, can you imagine? They still had this in their mind. They didn't give up. So they came, right? One day I was giving a lecture over here inside, right? I give lectures sometimes over here on the weekdays. So came one of the gabaim, one of the the president's men, right? So came and they cornered me, they put me in the corner. They said, we want you to explain, Rabbi, why is it that you do this kind of stuff?
You may not
Can you-
participate.
Right. Can you explain that to us? So like they thought like they got me. They had me, like in the corner. That's it. Down for the count and on the ropes. Bach, bach, bach. So I told them, I said, fine, no problem. Let's sit down and we'll discuss the whole thing. So they told me, they said, we don't mean to offend you. Don't get offended by what we're doing. I said, no, I don't get offended. I have no problem with that. I said to myself, I said, I probably have better luck than the rabbi explaining this, because I know a little bit more about it. so I sat down with them and I explained to them. I said, you should know, not every part of the prayer requires a minyan. As we said, right? The Amidah, the standing prayer, is the main part that requires a
They
minyan.
didn't know that.
There's also Kaddish, there's also Baruch Hu, there's also other elements that require a minyan as
And
well.
you want to tell me that everyone didn't know that?
I'll explain to you. So what happened was, right, that, have a seat, my friend.
Shalom.
Have a seat. Welcome. We're in the middle of lecture. Okay, so what happened is like this, right, that I told them, I said, not every part of the prayers requires a minyan. So Dafka here, right, precisely what they're doing, Kabbalat Shabbat, accepting Shabbat on themselves, does that require minyan? They all do it together in unison, right? In unison, like, one group, like everybody chanting together, which is very nice, by the way. It looks beautiful. I'm all for it. Believe me when I tell you. I have nothing against it. But I explained to them like this, right? In the Talmud, it says like this. Talmud. It says in the Talmud that they used to, the big rabbis of the generation, to do Kabbalat Shabbat. You know where they used to go, right? Not to the shul. They didn't go to the shul. You know where they went? To the meadow, to the Flushing. That's where they went. They went to the forest.
Field.
Why is that? What's the reason why? Because the truth is, right, that it's better to accept Shabbat in an isolated place than go to a minyan. So what do we learn from there, right? We, by the way, we don't do this so much, because we're too lazy to go to the meadow, right? We're not on that level, I guess, whatever. We're not on that. It's not really an obligation, but the rabbis used to do it. The big rabbis used to go to the meadow. So, but at least one thing we learn from there, right? The Kabbalat Shabbat, doesn't require a minyan. That's for sure, right? Even though we don't go to the meadow, whether you go to the meadow or not, that's not the issue. The issue is that Kabbalat Shabbat doesn't require a minyan. What does that mean? You can say Kabbalat Shabbat at home. You can say Kabbalat Shabbat in the shul. You can say Kabbalat Shabbat in the forest, right? In Forest Park, right? That's probably the best thing to do, right? Or Central Park, depending on where you live, right?
Looking for them? He might be looking for them.
What difference does it make?
No,
We're dealing with our situation. Let him worry about himself.
For nothing.
Don't worry, he's listening to Divrei Torah. It's nothing. He's getting a lot of reward. So now, right? What are we saying? I told him. I said, so that's why what I do is like this, right? I don't pray slowly the Kabbalat Shabbat like you do. I do it like faster because you guys, are chanting, because I want to learn Torah. I don't have time for that. I mean, the truth is, right, that with my rabbi, Moreno Rabbeinu, Maran, Ravadia, you know how long, you want to make a contrast, right? How long did it take him to do Kabbalat Shabbat in his shul? I used to pray there. How long does it take over here in this shul, right? Or, something similar. Kabbalat Shabbat by Ravadia was 5 to 10 minutes maximum. You know what I mean? Over here, we're talking about a half hour at least, right?
Just like everything else.
So it's like, it gets drawn out. I mean,
what
it's
time
just,
You know what time their weddings start, right? At 1 o'clock in the morning.
That's a good one.
People are invited at 8, and the
I think we should give a lecture on that too, David. That's a very good lecture topic. Okay, whatever. But anyway, the point is, right, that I told him, I said, I finish in 5 minutes, Kabbalat Shabbat, and then I want to go and learn Torah. Why should I stand there like a trunk? Please don't interrupt the lecture.
No, he's not from there. Oh.
So,
No, he's asking where you're from.
right, I understand, but don't interrupt. Okay, let's be Bitul Torah. So, what we're saying is like this, right? That Kabbalat Shabbat doesn't require a minyan. Number one. Number two, also, the point is, right, that you can do it very quickly. So I told him, I said, that's what I do. I want to learn Torah. I don't want to stand there like a tree for a palm tree, waving with the wind for a half hour. For me, it's boring. It's just worthless for me. It's not doesn't mean anything. See, by the philosophy of Maran Alav Shalom, Ravadia, what his philosophy was? Everything has to be done with rizut, with eagerness.
So how did they accept your answer? Were they...
So what I told him was, number one, that doesn't require, the Kabbalat Shabbat does not require a minyan.
And what did they say?
But then they gave me a different question, right? Which was what? They said, but what about the fact that you finish, we're all praying and you're sitting there, like in other words, you're deviating from the minyan. It's like a deviation. So I said, let me ask you a question. If you say I'm deviating, right? When a person, let's say, we all pray Amidah, right? And some pray, by the way, very long, some pray very short. Some do 5 minutes, some do. So you know how it is, right? Each one finishes at a different time. So I said, when the person finishes, what does he do? If he finished already, the other ones are still praying. So he takes a book and starts learning. If he's a normal Jew, that's what he should start doing. So I told him, I said, what difference is this between that? In other words, just like a person who finished the Amidah, now he can do other things as well. What is he going to do? Stand there like a tree? To make himself look like a telephone pole? What's the whole point, right?
So they were content with
So I told him, I said, listen, you have to understand one thing, right? That once you finish, now you have to study Torah. You can't just stand there. It's bitul Torah. It's a waste of time. So I explained to him all these things. So I said, I told him, I said, even the rabbi, you see, right, that the rabbi himself, when he finishes the Amidah, he does it very fast. So he sits down, he starts playing with his, all these kinds of things. You know what it is, right? So I told him, I said, what difference is there between, just the opposite, right? That the fact that Kabbalat Shabbat doesn't require minyan, it's even more loose. There's no obligation to be there. There's no obligation to do it with them. You can do it faster than them. Also, I want to tell you another thing, right? Which is what? The Kabbalat Shabbat, the Nusach, the text of Kabbalat Shabbat that they do here in most places in the diaspora is different than the one we did in Yerushalayim, in Jerusalem, right? In Jerusalem, it's a much shorter formula, right? So it's really like half the size of what they do over here. So that's why I finished faster, because I do according to the Jerusalem text, because that was my rabbi. My rabbi did like that. So I do like everything what he did, pretty much I do, he was our master, he was our Moshe Rabbeinu, So what do you expect me to do? To deviate from that? I'll never deviate from that. No matter who it is, no matter what it is, whatever the rabbi did of Shalom, we stick to that, we don't deviate from those things. Because we know he was a great rabbi of the generation, nobody was like him. Nobody was on his level in halakha, and anything else is also as well. So what does that mean, right? So I explained to them all these things. So they start to open their eyes a little bit, that things are not exactly what they thought. You know what I mean? So this is good, by the way. A person has to know that not everything you see, like readily, which is done in the shul, is what you think it is. You have to study these things. You have to study the laws of prayers. These things have to be studied. It requires quite a lot of time to acquire the knowledge, to know how to pray. Where you can cut short, where you have to go long, where you have to be with the minyan. Now with the minyan, there's all kinds of rules with these things. You know what I mean? So this is a whole discipline in itself. Why do I tell you all these things? Right? It's a funny story actually, but the truth is, these people now, who I explained this to, they were very skeptical in the beginning, but then they realized, right, that it opened their eyes. So now they come to me and ask questions. They know about other things as well. Because now they realize, right, that Judaism is not as simple as they thought. There's a lot more details involved. You got to sweat the details. That's the whole thing. That's the whole idea, right? So that's exactly why I told them what I said, right? But the person has to understand that not everything requires a minyan. Now the question is like this, right? Have a seat, relax. Why are you so tense? Have a seat. So okay. So now like this, right? There's also another issue, which is very important to know. What about when you start praying with the minyan, right? You come. So the question is like this, right? That let's say the minyan already started when you came. You came a little bit late, whatever, So the question is, if you start a little bit later than them, are you considered to be with the minyan or not? That's the question, right? That's the question. You see already how, right? Mark is very very strict about this. I'm getting scared how strict he's going to be on me. Okay, so what's the rule, right, regarding that? So the truth is, right, we have a rule, which is a good rule to know, that when we're talking about the Amidah, right, the silent prayer, the standing prayer that we say, really the best thing to do is to start. Everybody should start together this prayer. This is the ideal way of praying with the minyan, is everybody starts at the same time. You understand? That's the way it should be. That's what it says in Rabbi Feinstein, right? He writes about this, that this is really the essence of praying with the minyan, that everybody starts together. So then, if like some of them are slower and some of them are faster, that's okay. That's not a big problem. As long as you start together, it's all considered to be in one group. The question is like this, right? Let's say I wasn't able to start with them. I came a little bit late. Things got a little bit, hairy or whatever. The elevator got stuck. There was no parking, whatever. So I rush in. So now they're already like, everybody's quiet. Everybody's already praying. So what should I do now, right? Should I join them? Am I considered to be a part of Minyan? So the first thing a person has to know, there's several opinions about this, by the way, right? According to one opinion, if you said the majority of the Amidah with them, you're considered to be with them, even though you started a little bit later. As long as you said the majority of it. What does that mean, the majority? The majority means, right, that how many blessings do we have there? We have 19 blessings altogether. So if you said 10 of them with the Minyan and 9 by yourself, that's called the majority, right? Simple math, right? Whatever. So therefore, if a person said 10 with them, 9 without them, all the more so if he said even more right with them, then he's considered to be with the Minyan. So therefore, right, he still has hope, right? Can't give up hope yet, right? So now I ask you a question, right? What about if he couldn't even do that? He couldn't even get the majority, right? He came right towards the end, he's running, out of breath, his lungs, So what's the halakha then? And the Chazan is a Speedy Gonzalez, so he's running, knocking it off, one by one. So then what's the halakha? So there is actually one opinion, the Chazon Ish, who says like this, right? Chazon Ish says that even if you came right towards the end, and you started like when they were finishing, you're still considered to be with the Minyan. You understand? This opinion, by the way, is also substantiated in the Tosfot, right? Which is on the Talmud. What does that mean? That there is also idea over there like this, right? The idea is that a person who, the question is like this, right? When are you considered to be together with something, right? When you start together, or even if you don't start, but some part you did together with them, right? So there is also opinion like this, that some part also if you did together with them. So therefore the Chazon Ish says that even if you got a little bit with them, something, like a few seconds even, you consider to be with the Minyan. Okay, the truth is, right, that most of the poskim don't paskin this way, like the Chazon Ish. They don't say like that. So therefore a person should not rely on this, like preferably. Preferably, you should try to start with them, if it's possible. And if you can't do that, at least say the majority with them, and so he's considered to be with the Minyan, right? So therefore, if a person did that, he's still okay, Also regarding another thing, right? That's also another question they asked me, these guys. You want to hear another one? Another ingenious question, right? The question was, they said, we see that what you do is sometimes you leave a little bit early, like before everybody else leaves the shul. Good question, legitimate question, right? So, everything needs to have to be answered, right? We don't mind these kinds of things. We take it with stride, take it with happiness, whatever. So they have to know these things. They're asking. That's what they're here for. If they don't ask, what are they going to learn like that, right? Ena Baishan Lamed. A person who's embarrassed can't learn anything, right? Don't be embarrassed. Ask. Don't be embarrassed to ask a rabbi. Why did you do this? Why did you do that? Isn't this not allowed? What you did? You shouldn't be embarrassed to ask that. What's the problem? What? That's what he's here. He teach you. So if he did something which looks suspicious, tell him. Why did you do it this way? What's the problem? What? Oh, because he's a rabbi. So what? That's his job. He's not supposed to be an idol. A figurehead. Like some kind of icon. Statue. That's not what you are as a rabbi. You have to come down. To nitty gritty. Roll up your sleeves and to speak nitty gritty with people. You know what I mean? If they need to know, you have to answer them. Not like this guy didn't have an answer. No good. Why didn't he have an answer? Because he doesn't know the halakha. He didn't learn. He didn't learn these things. So he doesn't know how to answer. That's too bad. Because a rabbi should know these things. That's the whole point of being a rabbi. If you don't know, so you're in the wrong business. Go to 47th Street. Get a job over there. What what I'm saying? What's well, that's already a little different. Okay, so that's the idea, right? So therefore, Rabotai, the concept of going. So what they asked me, right? They said, why do you also leave early? So I told them, I said, how early did you see me leaving? So they said, you know what? We make, after we finish the Shabbat prayers on Erev Shabbat, on Leil Shabbat, on Sabbath Eve, we make Kiddush. The rabbi stands up there and makes Kiddush, and you leave before the Kiddush is done. So I said, what's the problem? I make Kiddush at home. I don't have to hear the Kiddush over here. You know what I mean? The Kiddush over here, who was it said for? It's said for people who don't know how to make Kiddush at home. You know what I mean? For like, ignoramuses, Amaretz, a person who's, people like this, right? They don't know how to read. They don't know how to, they don't have the minimal. You know what I'm saying? So I told him, I said, I'm making Kiddush at home. Why do I have to Kiddush here, Kiddush over here? Oh, okay. That's interesting, right? They like that one. They like that one.
No,
So then one of them even said, right, something else. He said, but sometimes you leave before the last Kaddish is said. The last Kaddish. They say one additional Kaddish sometimes. So the truth is, I have a chip on my shoulder when it comes to this Kaddish. I'll explain to you why, right? I tried to leave before the Kaddish. I don't want to hear this Kaddish. You know why? What the reason is? Because the Sephardi custom, right, is not to say the extra Kaddish after the prayers are over. You know what I mean? We don't say it. And the way it was also Maran, Alav Shalom, Morin Rabbeinu, Ravadia, we didn't say this extra Kaddish. Right? We're talking about the Mincha prayer, the Arvit prayers, right? Evening prayer, afternoon prayer. We didn't say that Kaddish. So therefore, in order to demonstrate that I object against saying it, right, that's exactly why. Because the truth is, right, also in Tbilisi, in the Georgians, they didn't say this Kaddish. And then some yachts came over here and added it, some yachts who doesn't know, right, some yachts downstairs. I don't want to tell you, right? You can figure it out who it is, right? He came and added this Kaddish because he thinks he's a big hero, He's trying to, he thinks, right, if you add, it's better, right? But the Chazal said not like that, right? Kol mosif gorea. What does that mean? Whoever adds is subtracting. Adding to the prayers that the sages made is not considered to be a good thing. Unless you're a big sage yourself, you're a big some kind of Arizal, some kind of a big Kabbalist, whatever. Who are you to add things to the prayers? Everything that was done by the sages, decreed by the sages, was done for a purpose. Those that they have very deep secrets behind these things, And you think you can just come and add to that? Like, you can go to those secrets, what these things signify, what they mean, what they effectuate in the heavens, on the earth. Do you know all these things? How can you just come and add something, to the prayers like that? When they say, right, the Chazal, by the way, it's not the Chazal. It's the Arizal, right? The Arizal, who was a great Mekubal 500 years ago. He said, right, that he himself was Ashkenazi, by the way, this guy. His father was Ashkenazi. His name was also Ashkenazi. His last name was Ashkenazi. That was his name. So what happened was, right, he said, he used to go and pray with the Sephardim, though.
I have a friend who has his last name is Ashkenazi.
Right, he was Ashkenazi.
There's a famous pianist and composer, Vladimir Ashkenazi.
Okay, very good. So what happens is like this, right? That comes the Arizal and prays with the Sephardim. Why was he praying with the Sephardim? So you know what he said? He said the Sephardi prayer is better, according to Kabbalah. According to Halacha, they're both good. No problem, right? Ashkenaz, Sfarad, they're all good. But when it comes to the Kabbalah, he said the Sephardi prayer is more organized properly, So therefore he said that's why I prefer to pray with them. The only time that he used to pray with the Ashkenazim, you know when it was? During the High Holy Days. Because there the Ashkenazim, they do a totally different nusach. They have a totally different text than we do. So therefore, right, Mark, don't come to us for the High Holy Days, right? Pray to go to the Ashkenazim because you're going to get something totally you didn't expect, right? You're going to get a pizza without no cheese. You know what I mean? A pizza with no cheese. That's what you're going to get, right? If you come to us. So you better go to the Ashkenazim on the High Holy Days. The rest of the time you can come to us. No problem. We have no problem with it, right? So the point is like this, right? That the Arizal used to pray with the Sephardim. So you know what he said? He writes, by the way, in his book, the Shar Kavanot, his student, Rav Chaim Vital. He said that there's 12 gates in the heavens for the prayers to be accepted. Why 12? Because we have 12 tribes, right? So each gate signifies one tribe, that their prayers go through that gate. So they said, right, that each tribe has their own text, nusach, and therefore, right, it goes through only that gate, because it's specially made for their tribe. But they said the Sephardi prayer, the Arizal said, right, it has the power to go through all the gates, no matter which tribe you come from. And we don't know which tribe we come from, right? We guess sometimes, I'm from Minyan, you're from Yehuda, this, you're from Ephraim, this and that, we're Levi, the Kohen, whatever. We try to, do the best we can, but we don't really know 100% which tribe we're from. We guess, sometimes. We're guessing. So what happens is, like most of us I'm talking about, some of us have a family tree, that's something else. But since we're doing guesswork basically, right? So the thing is like this, right? That if you don't know which tribe you come from, if you pray a Sephardi siddur, your prayers will go through the gates anyway. It goes through all the gates. That's what the Arizal said, right? So can you imagine such a thing like this? So therefore, the Sephardi prayer is considered to be, according to the Kabbalah, the Arizal said, it's considered to be the best. So, right, getting back to what we said, right, regarding the Minyan, there's also another interesting thing. We'll finish it up. I don't want to keep you guys too long. The question is like this, right? That if a person has a place to learn, a place to study, and a place to pray, synagogue and a bet midrash. So the question is, right, what's more holy, right? Synagogue is more holy, or a study hall where they learn Torah over there? Yeshiva, kollel. Which one is more holy? So even though there's a machloket, there's a dispute in the Talmud, right? In the Shulchan Aruch it says that the Bet HaMikdash is more holy. What does that mean? That the study hall is more holy. So therefore, it's a mitzvah for a person to pray in a place where he studies also their Torah as well. You know what I mean? Because the prayers are more readily accepted. By the way, there were even some rabbis who went to an extreme regarding that. You know what they used to do? They wouldn't even come to Minyan, some rabbis. There were some rabbis who did this. They wouldn't come to Minyan at all. They would pray in the place where they study all day. They considered that to be superior. But the truth is, halacha is not like that, right? Halacha says that even though praying in a place where you study is considered to be very great, but still, right, with the Minyan, it's still even better, right? So therefore, if you have a choice between this and that, you should try to go to the Minyan. But the practical difference is like this, right? If a person is not able to go to Minyan for some reason, so then he should pray in a place where he studies, because it's going to be very accepted there, his prayers, right? Also, another thing I want to tell you. Even though, right, it's a big mitzvah to come to Minyan, but the Chazal say, right, it's a big mitzvah to be the first person who comes to Minyan. He gets more reward than everybody else. But the first guy, the one who opens the door, the key gets jammed into the door, like we got today, right? If you're the first one who comes in, you get more credit than everybody else, right? And also, if you're the first 10, also you also get a lot of credit. The first one gets the most, the first guy, and then the first 10 also get much more credit than the other ones do, right? So therefore, they say, right, try to come early to the Minyan because of this. Because if you're within the first 10, you are considered to be like the whole foundation of the Minyan. The whole Minyan rests on you. The rest is just additional, just additional. But the foundation of the Minyan is with the first 10 people. So therefore, it's a big mitzvah, even though it's a mitzvah to pray with the Minyan, but to come early and to be for the first 10, that's even greater, right? That's even. I'll tell you one more thing and we'll finish, right? You guys don't have to go to sleep soon, right? It's almost bedtime. Okay, no, just joking. So, not quite, right? Not quite, okay. I exaggerated, I'm sorry. So, another interesting thing is like this, right? There's a great mitzvah also that a person should pray, right, in the morning I'm talking about. Should pray in Netzach Hama. What does that mean? When the sun comes up, right? He starts praying earlier. He starts building, go up, and he does Kriyat Shema right before the sun comes up, and then when the sun comes up, he starts saying Amidah right at that time. Amidah Zed Geba, He says at that time he stands with Amidah. He starts a silent prayer when the sun comes up. So when he does that, he gets a lot of power from that. The whole day goes like much better like that. He gets a lot of power, a lot of assistance from Hashem. That he's praying Netzach Hama. So the question is like this, right? Which is better? Classic question, right? To pray with a Minyan, but they're not praying when the sun comes up. They're praying a little bit later, right? 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock, whatever it is, right? 7:30. Or should you go and pray by yourself with Netzach Hama when the sun comes up? What's better? To be with a Minyan or to go to Netzach Hama, right?
Over there you have the sun. Over there you got the power.
Here comes the sun, right? Okay, here comes the sun. Okay, so you know what the answer is? The answer is, the truth is, that if a person can concentrate somewhat well during the Amidah, he concentrates on what he's talking about, he's not dreaming, Tel Aviv, Haifa is going from here, taking a world tour, right? In Amsterdam, he's going from if he really concentrates on his prayers, so they say it's even better than Minyan, to pray Netzach Hama, to pray with the sun coming up. Can you imagine? It's considered to be even better. So therefore, right, depends. But if a person doesn't have concentration so much at all, in other words, he barely concentrates at all, he doesn't even know what he's talking about. Just like right. Or yeah, right. That we talked about. But there's also another thing, right, which is that he let's say he's pretty focused, but he doesn't understand even what he's reading. He doesn't understand Hebrew, so he doesn't even know what he's reading. This guy, barely knows what he's reading, barely. So if a person like that, right, he shouldn't really pray nets by himself. You know why? Because his prayer is very hard to get accepted by himself. Because we still have that iron wall, right? That iron dome, right?
Yeah.
That iron dome, right? That is separating between us and Hashem. So therefore, right, if a person that has a bad concentration, poor concentration like that, it's better to go to Minyan. You know why? Because they say when you go to Minyan, even though nobody's really concentrating, but still accepted. Can you imagine the power of the Minyan? It still gets accepted by Hashem.
I also heard that if you're not literate
Yeah.
and you can't read or whatever, just by standing
Yeah.
in a temple around people that are praying, their prayers go to you. Is that true?
One more time. Can you ask one more time this question? I'm
That
sorry.
If you don't know how to pray,
Right.
if you can't read or whatever,
Oh,
just by being there
right.
amongst people that are praying, that their prayers will affect you.
Okay, that's the whole idea, right? The whole what you're talking about is like this, right? That what we do is when the tzibur, right, when the community says the Amidah one time, the standing prayer, then the Chazan comes and says it again. Why do we do that? We repeat it twice. What's the reason why we repeat it? The reason is because of this, right? That the Chazan is now saying for the people who don't know how to pray. That's the idea. You understand?
Nice.
So therefore, if a person doesn't know how to pray, what does he do? He should listen to the Chazan when he's doing the repetition, and he's going to be right fulfill his obligation with the Chazan. That's what you're talking about, right?
Yes,
That's what we said.
problem.
Okay, guys, thanks for coming. God bless you.
I'll drive you home. You want?
Be strong. Be faithful. Right? Enjoy Shabbat, and we'll see you next week, B'ezras Hashem. Lots of health, lots of happiness.
Spend a lot of money.
Nice to meet you, my friend.
Rabbi,
What's
is it all right?
what's your name? Yeah, I'm coming with you. Yeah.
Are you looking for somebody? Who?
Right. The problem was that the entrance is from the
He's
from,
probably.
the entrance is from